I am coming at you from the end of finishing this video, and I'm so sorry for the audio, I really am. There's not a whole lot I can do about it right now. I have ordered a new microphone, so we will hopefully have a bit of an upgrade from my little pink fluffy thing. The audio isn't great, and I also have now just realised that I filmed in the wrong colour settings. So I'm really sorry about that. I hope you enjoyed the video nonetheless. Please don't let me know that the audio is bad. Please don't let me know if the colouring is bad and the picture is bad. I know, okay. Enjoy the video. Hi besties, welcome or welcome back. First of all, this is gonna have to be the new backdrop for videos for the time being. As you can probably tell, I am no longer in my little university flat. I am now back living with my parents for the meantime. University is quickly coming to a close. My tenancy is ended and I've decided to move back in with my parents for the meantime. And I am back in my bedroom at my parents' house. And if you could see the chaos that is going on behind the camera right now, you would understand why this is the only place I can film. Because I have not unpacked, I have no furniture other than my bed, and everything is just in bags and boxes. But with all of that out the way, I am going to be going through some summer book recommendations and also my summer TBR. Some books that are perfect to read when it's hot outside, when you're at the beach, or if you're going on holiday maybe. All of that good stuff. So I have split the recommendations into genres. There are some general authors, but I have tried to do at least one book per genre that I think falls into good summer book recommendations. Another thing to know before we get into the video, I don't have any of these books to hand to physically show you. I am going to put pictures on the screen of all of the books I'm referring to. As I said, all of my belongings are still in boxes, and that unfortunately includes all of my books. So every single book I own is currently in a box. So it's just me and my Kindle against the world right now. Starting off with the romance genre, I have Ali Hazelwood, specifically Problematic Summer Romance and The Love Hypothesis. Problematic Summer Romance is the perfect book to read this summer. It is Ali Hazelwood's most recent release, and we are following our two main characters as they head to Italy for a wedding. It is age gap, and we have a then and now timeline. So the now timeline is the two main characters at the wedding in Italy, and the then timeline is following our main characters as our female main character is at university. Does that make sense? The banter in this was great. I love an age gap romance, with exception to underage romance, I guess. Both of the main characters just have such good banter, and I loved learning about what their conflict was and why the two main characters aren't together. And I specifically listened to this one on audiobook, which I would highly recommend. The voice actor who narrates the female main character is hilarious, and the female main character in general is so funny. And I would really recommend this one on audio because it's so fast paced and the characters just have so much more personality, in my opinion. And then The Love Hypothesis, while it's not technically a summer themed book, I personally read this in summer, and it was actually the book that got me into reading. So Ali Hazelwood has a very special place in my heart. I love her so much. She is a wonderful author. Her books are so fast paced, and all of her characters are funny, quick-witted, and their romances are always so romantic. Next up, another author I have is Elsie Silver, specifically the Chestnut Springs series. That is the only one I have read by this author, but I have heard wonderful things about her other series as well. Chestnut Springs is a cowboy romance series following different siblings within the same family and their relationships. My favourite is Heartless, which is the second book in the series. These are interconnected standalones, so you don't have to read all of them. I would personally recommend reading all of them in order, but Heartless in particular is my favourite. This is a grumpy sunshine nanny romance, single dad. The banter is unmatched in my opinion. I have never found a book with two main characters that have more banter than these two. I have only read the first 3 books in this series, so I cannot account for the other 2, but all 3 books so far have been wonderful and I would highly recommend them, again because they are so fast paced, and I feel like that's what I look for when I'm trying to find summer books, something fast paced that I don't have to put my mind to too much. In that same vein, I have the Rebel Blue Ranch series by Lila Sage. This is another series of interconnected standalone cowboy romances, very similar in my opinion to the Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver. This again follows a family and each sibling's relationship. They are super short. I think the longest book in the series I've read so far has been maybe 350 pages. They're so short, so sweet. And if you don't want something that's going to be too emotional or go too in-depth, I think these ones are perfect. The next author I have is Abby Jimenez. I am very new to Abby Jimenez. I started reading her this year, I believe. And my 2 favourites so far have been Just for the Summer and Say You'll Remember Me. Say You'll Remember Me is her newest release. I read this in a reading vlog previously. What I like about Abby Jimenez's writing is you get a very romantic and sweet romance, but she goes a little bit more in depth in terms of emotion. All of her characters have something a little bit deeper going on, which I really enjoy. Sometimes you don't just want cute, light and fluffy. It's nice to have a bit more of an emotional punch, and if you want a bit of a cry, Abby Jimenez's writing and her characters are gonna do that for you. Again, short, fast-paced, wonderful books. The next one I have is actually a dark romance. You will probably be sick of hearing me talk about this book, but it is Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. I love this book with everything in me. It is one of, if not my all-time favourite book. It is a dark rom-com, so it has a lot of dark themes, a lot of trigger warnings, but the author has written it in a way that is funny. And a lot of the topics aren't necessarily funny in general, but the way it is written is hilarious. This one is following Rowan and Sloane, and they are both serial killers, and they essentially have this competition going on once a year where they compete to unalive someone. They end up falling in love. It is wonderful, very romantic, but also very strange because it's a dark romance and they're serial killers. But I just think that book is unmatched, and again, so fast paced. That is a theme with all of these books. I then have Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. I read this such a long time ago that I can only remember little snippets of the book, but I remember it just being one of the sweetest and most emotional reads I've ever come across. I can't actually remember the name of the female main character, but our male main character is called Archer and he is deaf, and our female main character actually knows sign language because of something that has happened to her family previously. This one really packs an emotional punch. It was honestly so sweet and I teared up so much reading it because it was just so beautiful. The next genre I have is general fiction, and I only actually have 1/2 books in this genre. I am not the best person at categorizing genres at all. The lines just get a little bit blurred. I can never work out what's general fiction, what's contemporary romance, what's romance. It all just gets very blurred to me. So if these genres aren't right, I'm very sorry. But the first book I have is Daisy Jones and the Six. I actually read this week and I absolutely loved it. I'm so late to the hype. This book came out years ago. It's by Taylor Jenkins Reid, who I have actually read from before. The book is following a band and the band members. Something has happened, we don't know what, and we are getting the perspective of all of the different band members as they tell their version of events as to what's happened and why this band are no longer together. But the book's actually written in interview style, and the audiobook for this one was phenomenal. Each character had a different narrator and different voice actor, so you're so immersed in all the different characters. You learn to recognise their voices. I was hooked on everything about the band. I was hooked on the music, how they went about writing the music. on the romance and all of the problems that came with being in a rock band. And if you're looking for a TV series, if you have not already watched it, Daisy Jones and the Six is also a TV series on Amazon Prime. And again, absolutely loved it. I watched it in one day. It was so good. And then the second book I have in this genre, which kind of falls into two, is Where the Crawdads Sing. The reason I say this falls into a few different categories, we've got romance, there's a mystery going on, a murder mystery, and we're figuring out what happened. It's general fiction. There are just so many different elements of this book which make it so unique. There's some beautiful quotes in it, and you are following a female main character who is in a complicated family, I will say. I don't want to give too much away on this one because I did not watch the film before I read the book, and I would really recommend doing that. If you've not already watched the film, please read the book first because it is so incredible, and the plot twist at the very end was just like nothing you would ever expect. It is unbelievable and so addicting. You get so drawn into the story and all of the different characters involved, and it is one of the first books that I was completely hooked on, and I read this one in one sitting. It was that good. Then I have a psychological thriller author, which is Frida McFadden. My favourite Frida McFadden book is Never Lie. All of her books are very dark and twisty and keep you on the edge of your seat. Some of them are more predictable than others, and Never Lie is one of my favourites because it was one that I just could not predict the ending to. They're very short and they don't take a lot of brain power to read. And when I think of summer, specifically when I think of holidays, I always think of thrillers because I feel like they are just the easiest to get into, and you don't need to have a lot going on in your brain to understand what's happening. And Frida McFadden very quickly became one of my favourite thriller authors. The writing is not the best thing in the world, and as I said, some of them are very predictable. But there are a few, like Never Lie, and The Housemaid is also a very good one. That was the first book I read by this author. They're so twisty and they really just keep you hooked on what's going to happen with the characters. You don't know who the bad guy is if you don't want something that's going to need a lot of brain power. Next I have a young adult book, which is A Thousand Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. This one took me a little bit to get into because I don't typically read young adult anymore. I don't really connect to the characters as much now that I'm a bit older, but I really loved this one. Our female and male main character have been childhood best friends. They've grown up together on the same street. They live next door to each other. And then our male main character moves away, and you are following both points of view as they get older and they eventually meet again. And then something really tragic and sad happens, and you learn about what that means for their childhood romance. Childhood friends to lovers, it was so beautifully written. I feel like if you're like me and you don't typically get on with young adult books anymore, this one is perfect. And then the final genre I have is fantasy. I only have 2 books in this genre, well, 1 book and 1 series. The first one is Never by Jessa Hastings. This one really took me by surprise. It is a Peter Pan retelling, but it has such a dark undertone to it that I can't really explain. It's just something you will get if you read the book, but it just felt so nostalgic to me. There is something about Jessa Hastings' writing that is so magical. She has such a distinct way of writing her characters and her plots. They are so in depth that you can picture everything a character is thinking or seeing, and you begin to understand the characters so much and what their thought process is, that when if something bad happens to them or they go through a heartbreak, you really feel everything. But I am a lover of Peter Pan. It is one of my all-time favourite fairy tales, and this retelling was wonderful. I will just say maybe go into it with an open mind because this one really took me by surprise. But once you get into the story and you really start to understand Jessa Hastings' writing, this one was so addictive. You just have to push past her writing and get used to it a little bit if she's not an author you've read from before. And then the final recommendation I have, which might take some people by surprise, but it's actually A Court of Thorns and Roses, or the Agatar series by Sarah J Maas. You might be thinking that fantasy is probably one of those genres that people typically read in autumn and winter and when it's kind of gloomy outside. The reason I am recommending this series as a summertime read is, first of all, because this series is so bingeable and you are immediately hooked on the story. But I actually read these books for the first time in summer, so now I immediately associate the series with summer, and I do a reread of the whole series every single year, and I do it every summer because something about this series now always reminds me of my first year at uni and it being summertime, sat in a field tanning with all of my closest friends, and it just brings back that nostalgia of being at university for the first time. I don't know, I can't really explain it. Those are my reasons behind putting it in a Summer Rex video. But my main point is that they're so addictive and so bingeable that they are just perfect summertime reads. Now on to my summer TBR. I have not remotely organised these books into subcategories. I'm just going to read them in the list. The first one is The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. Season 3 of the TV show actually came out this month. I have been watching it every week. It is one of my favourite TV shows of all time. This is another young adult romance series. As I said, I don't typically read young adult anymore and I have not read the books, but I love the TV show. So this is one that I definitely want to read this year. I've had them on my TBR for maybe 6 months to a year now, and I desperately want to get to them because they are so fun and they take place at a beach house in this coastal, beautiful town, and I just think they would be the perfect books to read in summer, of course. And they are also so short and I feel like I could just fly through them. Next, I have 2 Emily Henry books. I have Beach Read and Happy Place. I have tried to read Happy Place by Emily Henry multiple times. I've never read an Emily Henry book and I feel like she is another author where you have to get used to her writing style. And I actually tried to pick up Happy Place when I was in a reading slump and it did not work out for me. I think I got maybe 30% into it and I ended up putting it down and I never picked it back up. So that is one that I definitely want to get to this year. And then I think Beach Read speaks for itself. The clue is in the title. I feel like it is a perfect summer book and I would, of course, love to read this one on the beach. I have no idea what it's about and I'm quite happy going into it blind. Next, I have Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Since reading Daisy Jones and the Six, I really want to go back and read some more Taylor Jenkins Reid books. And from what I've heard, Malibu Rising is one of the books that is on the more summery side. I believe this one is following 4 famous siblings or 4 siblings of someone famous and they throw this big party and something happens. That's the extent of what I know. That could be completely wrong, but this one sounds really fun. Okay, my camera battery is flashing at me, so I'm going to have to be really quick now. The next book on my summer TBR is The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. From what I've gathered from other people's reviews, I believe this one starts as a marriage of convenience when our main couple are in college, university. I'm not entirely sure on that premise, but I think he has asked her to go to a family wedding with her because his family think they are still married, maybe. And I'm pretty sure it's set on some sort of island. It's a destination wedding. That's all I know. That's all I'm going to go in knowing. But everyone has recommended this to me as the perfect summer read. I then have Chestnut Springs by Elsie Silver. As I said, I've not finished this series. I've got 2 books left. I have been saying I'm going to finish this series forever. I read the first 3 within a month and then I just never continued it. I have no idea why because I love the first 3 books in this series. The 4th book is one that I'm very excited to get to. That is Theo and Silver's book. And then the last one is Beau's book, which initially was the one that I was most excited for. But it came out quite a while ago now and I haven't heard the best things about it. And as much as I've gathered, that is people's least favourite in the series. And I think when that book came out is when I stopped reading the series. But reading is subjective and I might actually really enjoy the book and I just need to get to it. I just love Elsie Silver. I think her books are so quick and very romantic and hilarious, so I really need to get to the last two. I then have Seven Summers by Paige Toon. This one, I believe, follows a second chance romance or a childhood friends to lovers or something of that sort. Maybe I should actually have a look what this one's about, because I might not even be saying the right author. Yes, Seven Summers by Paige Toon. It says, 6 summers to fall in love, 1 summer to change everything. Liv and Finn meet 6 summers ago, working in a bar on a rugged Cornish coastline. The future's full of promise. When a night of passion ends in devastating tragedy, they are bound together inextricably. Can I read? But Finn's life is in LA with his band and Liv's is in Cornwall with her family, so they make a promise. Finn will return every year, and if they are single, they will spend the summer together. This summer, Liv crosses paths with Tom, a mysterious new arrival in her hometown. As the wildflowers and heather come into bloom, they find themselves falling for one another. For the first time, Liv can imagine a world where her heart isn't broken every autumn. Now Liv must make an impossible choice, and when she discovers the shocking reason that Tom has left home, she'll need to trust her heart even more. That sounds wonderful. The next one is One Golden Summer by Kylie Fortune. This one follows Alice, who, when she was a teenager, took a photo of 3 teenagers at her grandmother's lake house, maybe. And then I believe our main character is called Charlie. Another one who's even surprised. I don't know a whole lot about this one either, but I've heard it really packs an emotional punch, and I love that in a romance book. But I have heard that this one follows a lot of medical issues, so if that is something that you're not comfortable reading about, then I'd maybe stay clear from this one. But I've not read it yet, so I cannot vouch for what is exactly in this book. But if you come across this book and it sounds interesting to you, maybe take that into account. All I know is that it's supposed to be incredibly romantic, and our female main character is a photographer, which could actually be very wrong. I go into a lot of books very blind, and when I wrote this list, I didn't necessarily look into any of the books I was putting on the list. I just looked up popular summer book recommendations, and I thought, that one looks good, I'm going to add that. And then the second I read the description, it was gone straight over my head. But those are all the books that are on my summer TBR. Probably the worst descriptions you will ever hear, but I am just a little bit chaotic, and you are going to have to learn to accept that. But that is all of my summer recommendations and my summer TBR. If you have any summer book recs that you would like to leave, put them in the comments below, because I would love to hear them, and I would love to know what you're reading this summer. I am so excited, hopefully, for the weather to turn a little bit in the UK, and to get the opportunity to read some of these books in the sun or at the beach and not in the rain. But what is the UK weather if not unpredictable? But that is the end of this video. If you want to potentially see me read some of my summer TBR, then stick around, show some love. And if you do have any summer book recommendations, leave them below. And I will see you when I see you.